Hey guys, Eckhart Slaughter here, back with another episode of Star Wars Versus. You guys may have noticed that I haven't uploaded a whole lot in the past few days, and that's because I've been in the middle of a pretty big move. Thankfully, a lot of the hard work is done now, so my upload schedule should start to normalize pretty soon. So recently in this series, I've started looking not only at spaceship versus, but also at characters. For the first episode of this kind of new series, we looked at Master Chief versus Kylo Ren. And I thought that after this episode, I would stick to Star Wars only matchups for a bit. That is until I saw this matchup suggestion on one of my previous videos. A user whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce suggested that I put R2-D2 against Wally. Now, these are two of my favorite robots, and Wally is a beautiful and an amazing movie. So this matchup is too good to pass up, and it's what we're going to be looking at today. And for those of you who haven't seen Wally before, I cannot recommend it enough, and I'm going to put a link down in the description where you can buy it on Amazon, and if you do, I'll get a little bit of kickback from your purchase. But it's honestly one of my favorite movies, and it's probably one of my top 3 favorite Pixar movies. This matchup is kind of interesting for a couple of reasons, and the first is that, of course, Wally and R2-D2 are two of the most famous robots owned by Disney. They're also very cute and in a kind of weird way, very human-like. They're emotive and able to express themselves without really speaking, at least in full sentences. And I also think it's really interesting that Ben Burtt designed the sounds for both of these robots. Although, to be fair, I guess Ben basically designed the sounds for everything in the Star Wars universe. So we are going to take these two cute, humanized robots and put them together in a battle to the death, or at least to the deactivation. But before we do, I just want to briefly recap the poll results for last video. And we looked at Kylo Ren versus Master Chief. And there are actually 2 rounds, one where Kylo had his full force powers, and the second where there were some stipulations to the kind of powers he could use. I predicted Kylo would win the first round, and that Master Chief would win the second. 2,000 of you voted for the first round, with 60% saying that Kylo would win. 1,900 of you voted in the second round, with 83% saying that Master Chief would come out on top. Thank you to everyone who voted, and let their comments be known in the comment section. Don't forget, after this matchup, once I say who would win, make sure to let me know what you think by once again voting by clicking the annotation in the top right corner. So back to today's matchup, and as I previously mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking these two combatants, putting them head to head in a one-on-one battle, and trying to predict which one would come out on top. In doing so, I'm going to be evaluating the characters based on 3 categories: offensive abilities, defensive abilities, and intangibles. But I'm evaluating the matchup overall, so just because a character takes 2 categories doesn't necessarily mean that they'll win in the end. Alright, so on to the analysis, and we'll start first with offensive capabilities, and we'll look first at Wally. Despite his appearance, Wally has impressive strength and dexterity. He can use his hands to manipulate objects, and his arms are quite strong. He's shown on one occasion lifting a very heavy person, and later stopping a steel door from closing. He also managed to hold on to a rocket as it launched into space, and was able to, in seconds, dig a hole for himself so he could survive a spaceship landing on top of him. Wally is also very fast, especially when he's in his smaller box form. Near the beginning of the movie, he's shown chasing a laser dot, and he moves across the very vertical, garbage-filled landscape without any real problems. And later, once he gets on the Axiom, he's shown to be able to move at the same speed as much more advanced robots. Other than his pure strength, Wally does have 2 other weapons. He's got a cutting laser on his head, which has been shown to be able to pierce through metal. He also has a powerful trash compactor in his body, although I'm not sure how useful that will be in any sort of real combat. Now, besides for what I've just mentioned, I think Wally's programming will also impact his ability to really harm something. But I will talk about that in depth as we get to intangibles. Alright, so let's now talk about R2-D2. He has a few weapons which can be used offensively. The first is a small kind of claw type thing, which we first see in The Empire Strikes Back. He struggles to grab things from Yoda, so it doesn't seem to be particularly strong. Although in Revenge of the Sith, we do see that he can operate it with some dexterity. Other than that, R2 is quite creative, and he does have quite a few gadgets. Of course, in episode 3 again, we see him light those super battle droids on fire through a combination of some sort of gasoline and his thrusters. And in Return of the Jedi, he shocks Salacious Crumb with an electrical device. R2 is also a very proficient hacker, and he's able to easily link into computer systems. Though I must say, I don't think anything that R2 has compares to either the speed, strength, or dexterity of Wally. And that's saying nothing of the high-powered, steel-penetrating laser that Wally has on his head. So the offensive capabilities category goes to the Pixar robot. Next we have defense, and we'll start first again with Wally. Wally is extremely durable, and he has some very impressive, although cartoonish feats. He survives being hit at least twice by lightning, is landed on by a rocket, flies pretty close to a star, has various things fall on him, is hit by other robots, and on one occasion is hit really hard by Eve, the female robot, who is shown to have incredible strength. Wally has also operated independently for over 700 years, and he's modular and he can replace his parts with relative ease. Although I will say, that's not necessarily the most practical thing in the middle of a battle. But I think the overall point is that Wally is meant to be extremely sturdy, extremely efficient, and he takes some impressive beatings without stopping. And I kind of also alluded to this earlier, but he's also surprisingly fast. And when he meets Eve for the first time, he dodges lasers. R2-D2, on the other hand, has some kind of inconsistent feats in regard to his strength. In the Clone Wars television show, he survives a massive explosion which wiped out half of a fleet. In the Droids TV show, he also survived an encounter with the Great Heap. However, in the movies, astromech droids are shown to be destroyable with a single turbo laser. And R2-D2 is nearly destroyed during both the Battle of Yavin and the Ground Battle of Endor. I think the movies are a lot more indicative of how strong R2-D2 is. I mean, at the end of the day, he is a simple astromech droid. That, combined with the fact that he is much slower and less agile than Wally, tell me that this category has to go, again, to Wally. Alright, so now it's time for Intangibles, and this one is really interesting. I think the biggest factor here is just how the programming on these two droids is completely different. First, Wally. Although he's extremely efficient and a hard worker, he's also very cowardly. Again, when he meets Eve for the first time, after being shot at, his first response is kind of just to curl up into a box. And had Eve chose to, she could have destroyed him very easily. Wally is also very soft-hearted and he values life. I find it really hard to believe that Wally would kill a cockroach, much less another droid. On the other hand, R2-D2 is extremely loyal and has absolutely no problem killing, and he actually does so pretty creatively. He also makes the very best use of the equipment that he does have, is very brave, and is also very strong. He's also extremely resilient and very motivated. I mean, without him, the Death Star plans never would have gotten into the right hands, and the Rebel Alliance would have been destroyed. Other than that, for Intangibles, the only thing that I think I should mention is that R2-D2 seems to have a much more powerful battery than the other robot. I mean, Wally appears to need to recharge every day or every couple of days, while the same can't be said about R2-D2. Alright, so time for the actual battle, and this is pretty interesting because we have, in my mind, clearly superior hardware in Wally's case, but programming that's not at all suitable for one-on-one combat. And I just don't see any situation where Wally would destroy R2-D2. I mean, in the entire movie, he never goes on the offensive. He's always either running, dodging, or playing dead. That being said, I think it will be very difficult for R2-D2 to harm Wally in any sort of significant way. I mean, his main weapons are shock and heat, both of which Wally shows resistance to in the movie. Also, if Wally runs, R2-D2 is going to have a tough time keeping up with him. I don't even think his thruster is as fast as Wally's running speed. But just because R2-D2 is so motivated, and I really don't think Wally would hurt a fly, I'm going to give the win here to R2-D2, but only 5.1 times out of 10. And really, I only say this because I think Wally would break down first, or he would just get into a box and start hiding. R2-D2 could kill him eventually. Now, if Wally were somehow bloodlusted, like he saw Eve get hurt, or he thought R2-D2 was hurting Eve, or if it was just some sort of standard Wally model and not Wally himself, I would give him the win 9.5 times out of 10. Perhaps R2 could use his thrusters to stay away from the other robot, but I really don't know how he would survive an assault by a motivated Wally unit. But I would love to hear what you guys think. First, let me know down in the comments who you think would win this matchup, and also don't forget to vote. I'm going to put two little annotations in the top right corner. In the first one, you can vote on R2-D2 versus Wally, just the actual robots with the actual personalities that they have. Second, imagine that the droids are bloodlusted, so Wally thinks that Eve is in danger, R2 thinks that Luke is in danger. Who wins that battle? Again, just to recap, I think R2 wins the first 5.1 times out of 10, the closest margin we've ever had, but Wally wins the second one 9.5 times. Also, make sure down in the comments you let me know what you'd like to see for next video, and of course, whether you enjoyed this one. If you want to support the channel, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and share my content with your friends. And if you really want to help me out, you can click on my Amazon affiliate link down in the description and buy something. Again, I'll get a little bit of what you pay. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. It sucked not being able to upload during my hiatus, and I'm really glad that I'm back. I hope to speak to everyone down in the comments section, and until next time, may the Force be with you.